Hey everybody, I'm Matt and you're listening to the Board Game Hits podcast, the show for people who love solo board gaming. Whether you're here for news, thoughtful reviews, or just some laid-back game chat, I'm glad you stopped by. Let's get into it. The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era Review. Introduction. Tamriel beckons again. No, not the fabled The Elder Scrolls 6. This time, Tamriel beckons in board game form. The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, or BOTC for short, promises a sprawling open-world adventure where you can live out your The Elder Scrolls fantasy without having to download another mod for The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. But does it deliver on that promise, especially for solo players? Well, yes and no. I've spent hours trekking across Tamriel, slashing through Daedra, sweet-talking or sweet-rolling my way out of conflicts, and obsessing over character builds that would make even a min-maxing Dwemer envy. So grab your septims, replenish your magicka, and let's dive into this solo adventure. Overview. The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era is a cooperative adventure game set in the rich and diverse continent of Tamriel from the Elder Scrolls video game franchise. You and up to 3 other players take on the roles of adventurers, contracted as agents of a specific guild within one of Tamriel's provinces. The story begins during the Three Banners War, a bloody conflict for control of the Ruby Throne. Amidst this chaos, the Order of the Black Worm, a necromantic cult, plots to bind Tamriel to the Daedric plane of Cold Harbor, while a wood elf schemes to reshape Tamriel, and hopefully avoid getting eaten by a troll. The game is designed as a campaign played across 3 sessions, with each session spanning multiple in-game days. Gameplay involves a series of phases within each game day. New Day, Overland, which is traveling the map, Encounter, which involves quests, battles, and interactions, Reward, which is leveling up, and End of Day, where you pray to the divines for an app. Encounters can lead to peaceful resolutions or battles. The latter takes place on hex-based battle maps using different modes like clashes, delves, or dungeons. Your character evolves over time through experience points, which let you develop new skills and refine your combat style. The ultimate goal is to finish the campaign with a grand endgame session where you'll face off against a shadowy threat to Tamriel. Gameplay. Diving into the gameplay of The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era is a bit like embarking on an epic quest in its own right, with plenty of twists, turns, and a few pitfalls along the way. BOTC is an open-world, sandbox adventure that gives you a lot of freedom. You're not just running from point A to point B in a linear storyline, you're making choices that impact how your adventure unfolds. And that's fantastic. But also, it takes forever. While I appreciate the sandbox vibe, the faithfulness to the video games, and the sense of exploration it fosters, I couldn't help but feel that each guild quest could have been trimmed down a bit or split into more sessions per campaign. A single session can easily stretch past the 3-hour mark, especially if you're still learning the rules. The very first game took me about 8 hours as my eyes constantly glanced back and forth between the game and the rulebook at every step. Things got better as I started to internalize the rules, but it was a very rough first impression. After about 3 hours into a session, I found myself yearning for the simplicity of a peaceful encounter rather than setting up another battle. Setting aside the grueling session length, there's a lot to love about BOTC. It's comprised of several systems that integrate well together, like fine ingredients harmonizing into a gourmet dish. The Overland movement makes the game feel expansive and true to the Elder Scrolls series. Each region of Tamriel has a unique Overland minigame to add challenge to your treks. This makes each region feel distinct and memorable. You choose which encounters to engage in and which towns to stop in. The randomized encounters add variability so that no 2 games in a region are the same. but the towns add a layer of permanence that makes the world feel lived in. For example, I know Stone Wastes in Black Marsh is a home to legendary warriors, and I can always count on finding an Argonian fighter ready to join my party as a companion on my quest. True to the Elder Scrolls, you may also choose to beeline to your main quest objective, or let yourself wander along the way, with every villager who needs your help or Dremora who stands in your way. The hex-based battles are fun and strategic. There are different types of battles with different win conditions to keep things fresh. But even if you play the same conflict encounter twice, it can still feel drastically different due to the order and types of enemies you draw from the bag when setting up the encounter. Enemies are uniquely designed with attack types, strengths, and one or more abilities from dozens of keyword abilities that make them feel thematic and also influence how you may want to engage them in a battle. If an enemy has necromancy, you may choose to take out that enemy first, to not have to contend with resurrected foes each round. Perhaps an enemy with steel is deployed, and you want to keep your distance so that they don't pilfer the weapons you worked so hard to steal in the first place. One memorable encounter was a clash with a single tanky enemy, where I happened to also randomly draw a formidable mammoth for that enemy slot. The mammoth's colossal ability gave it even more health. It triggered slight PTSD from getting tossed around by mammoths and giants after venturing too far from Whiterun with one of my first underleveled characters in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. But I managed to pull off a win this time. Speaking of the same conflict encounter feeling different, Botsy has an amazing leveling and enemy scaling system that outshines even its video game siblings. Any encounter can be played at any XP level, but you'll only run into weaker enemies like bandits and skeever rats until you have the experience to take on harder enemies like Frost Atronax. As you can tell, there is a lot of randomness in Botsy to create unique experiences. I found delves, the battles where you're exploring a cavernous, procedurally generated map, can feel too random. The length of a delve and your success is dependent on the draw order from the delve deck. The randomness of the delve deck can be mitigated, but you have to be lucky to find the items that mitigate the delve deck's randomness. Fortunately, guilds, you align with one at the start of a campaign, specialize in different encounter types, so you can choose a guild that specializes in encounters you prefer. Bad dice rolls or unlucky encounter setups can also be frustrating. Both can slightly be mitigated with some character abilities, so you may want to work that into your strategy. But Botsy also provides other mechanisms to fail forward when things don't go your way. You can run away from encounters or miraculously have your guild bail you out once per campaign if you wipe out. It's nice to know that all is not lost when Lady Luck seems to be also facing off against you on the battlefield. I saved the best for last. The creme de la creme. Character building. The character building is hands down the best part of the game. In true Elder Scrolls fashion, you can develop your adventure how you want, mixing and matching stats and skill lines with very few constraints. Want an acrobatic, two-handed axeman? Sure. How about a stealthy sorcerer? Yep. I spent a lot of time just theory crafting the adventure I would want to play next. And a lot of the replayability lies in trying out different builds. You have the freedom to mix and match stats, health, magicka, stamina, and skill lines, bow, heavy armor, destruction magic, etc. And you have room for 8 in total on one adventure. Each skill line can have up to 6 dice. This sounds like a lot, but when you want to have more than 4 stats or skill lines, the next skill line has to go on the same row as another stat or skill line and share the dice slots. So now, instead of 6 dice for a skill line, all of a sudden you have to prioritize. Should each skill line on a shared row get 3 dice slots each? Maybe a 2-to-4 ratio or a 1-to-5 ratio. It adds a wonderful puzzle to the character building and a welcome constraint that sparks creativity. Unfortunately, Botsy's biggest strength highlights its biggest weakness, which brings us back full circle to the fact that the game sessions are long, and as a result, make leveling up an adventure feel like a grind. I've found myself taking on certain encounters not because I wanted to, but because I wanted the XP to progress my character and reach its full potential. The encounters that tend to award more XP are battles, making the game session even longer. Even when I hit my stride, a full campaign with 2 adventures took me 8 to 10 hours. That's still a long time to stick with your adventures before resetting and trying a new adventure and other mechanics in a new campaign. It's also worth noting that about a third to a half of the campaign is spent leveling up to your true final build. I could see myself modding this game to play what would be an ideal session without the grind. I could set starting XP allocation, for example 25 XP, and fast level an adventurer by choosing my skill lines and dice according to the XP constraint. I would then play a series of XP adjusted encounters to put my adventurer to the test. There are more nuances to consider, but it seems like it could work. Overall, The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era gameplay is engaging and fun. I enjoyed immersive adventures, varied and exciting tactical battles, and creative and strategic character building choices within a system that may be best in class. I think if the developers could have just cut the fat a bit more, it would have brought out the best flavors from the game and made for a more accessible and palatable experience. Solo play. For solo, The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era offers a true solo option where you control one adventurer, but oddly enough, solo players are encouraged to control 2 adventurers during the tutorial. I tried both ways, and I found playing with 2 adventurers was most enjoyable. It allows for more flexibility and creativity in your character builds, and the dynamic interplay between adventurers enriches the combat. The battles scale based on the number of adventurers, but you might find some enemy abilities particularly gnarly in true solo if you haven't prepared for them with a well-rounded build. Playing 2 adventurers per campaign also means that you get to experiment with and try more character builds per campaign. Either way, Botsy's solo mode has plenty to offer, ensuring that even lone wanderers feel right at home in the world of Tamriel. Components and design. One of the first things you'll notice about Botsy is the premium quality of its components, a true testament to Chip Theory Games' commitment to excellence. From the diverse custom skill dice that give your adventurers their identities, to the weighty chips that exude a satisfying heft, every element feels thoughtfully designed. The neoprene player mat, a card holder, and organizer for all the various decks, and storage solutions to save your progress and keep everything neat and tidy come standard here, like fancy upgrades on a luxury car. A great deal of care and attention has been poured into the production value of Botsy, reinforcing its identity as a high-quality, premium experience. Beyond the components, the writing is on point, and the lore is on brand, seamlessly integrating with the broader The Elder Scrolls universe. Traveling across Tamriel, getting sidetracked with random encounters and side quests, training different skill lines, and seeing familiar names and places are all thematic and add to the immersion. If you're a fan of The Elder Scrolls, you'll feel right at home. The Second Era setting is compelling, and the game's narrative system, which is rewriting history with every campaign, is a premise that fits in well with the lore of The Elder Scrolls artifacts. That said, it's hard not to notice that every campaign features the same antagonist, Delandra, whose motive to destroy all magic remains essentially unchanged across the 5 campaign arcs in the base game and the Valenwood expansion campaign. While her modus operandi might shift, I can't help but feel that a bit more variety in villains or storylines would have better showcased the game's potential for narrative expansion, as Botsy's 3-session writing structure seems like it could handle it. Final thoughts. In the end, The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era is a game that manages to capture the epic, sprawling open-world essence of its video game namesake, while delivering a rich and deeply strategic board game experience. Its innovative character building and strategic combat make it a standout title, albeit one that demands patience and a lengthy time commitment from its players. The long sessions and the grinding leveling system mean it's not a game I'd pull off the shelf lightly. In true The Elder Scrolls fashion, I am already brainstorming mods to streamline the experience because the character building and core combat are excellent. Thank you for tuning in to the Board Game Hits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a solo board gaming episode. You can also stay up to date by visiting BoardGameHits.com and signing up for my newsletter. See you next time.